Lumineers, we're back again with ITL, well, Intro to Lorcana Amethyst video. And today I have Braydon, who's actually top, 32, the first DLC in Atlanta. He's a part of Team Ohana. And then I also have Bruce over here because he didn't want to let Courtney do it. No, I'm just kidding. He was so excited. He had notes for the Sapphire video and wanted to do the Amethyst video too. So they're going to be going over quite a few decks today. And we are going to be starting off with a deck from Gaming Inkwell that I think we went over during our Amber video as well, but it kind of fit the script, so we put it in here as well. So Jose is going to take over, and we'll see you guys then.
All right, guys. So the first deck we have up here, it is one of the sometimes some of the hardest decks to deal with, the hyper aggro deck. We're looking at Amber and Amethyst here. We see the one drop package here. So of course, in this setup, you've got to play Daisy. You have those Lilos, those early questers, but the Amethyst cards are the ones that are going to help you as far as for maintaining your draw and refilling your hand, because all of us have played hyper aggro before. We know you get down on cards so quick with this because you're just constantly going to ink a card, play maybe one, ink another card. You're going to play two cards of those one drops when you get them. You want that low curve with this. So your hand goes so fast. So you can't underestimate having both Diablo, that's going to always draw you a card when it's banished, and Chernobog's Followers, that lets you draw a card when you quest with it. You can choose to banish it, which, helps in its flexibility. Sometimes, I like to leave it out there if I'm playing against something that doesn't have a board state, to combat. I'm going to just leave it out there and let it, I'm going to quest with it again and again until I feel like I need to crack it and banish it so I can draw a card. Same thing with the Magic Broom. When you're able to quest with it, and when you play another character, you can banish it to draw a card. Same thing. Again, you're getting that lovely card draw that Amethyst is known for.
Yeah, there's a lot of skill.
One drops.
Yeah, there's a lot of skill involved in when to pop those. I think that people underestimate that, but the Chernobog and the Broom both, you can get a lot more action out of them than what you really think. Especially once you start playing with them a lot, really get a feel for, are they in danger? Are they gonna try and take them out? Yeah, they're really great cards, and you have all three here, so that is definitely the standard one drop package from Amethyst. Sorry.
My favorite thing about the one drop package is how each of them are like so similar, but they've been like so different, and they've been better at different times. Whereas when we got Chernobog first, right, and oftentimes it was kind of our only way to stall Flynn in the red purple mirror for a while. And then now with Crab and Diablo being so relevant, I kind of would argue that Broom and Diablo are a little bit better than Chernobog, because with Crab, they can actually like survive and like live to do other things. And Diablo in this format, with red blue being so prevalent and destroying everything, whereas unless you can pop the Broom immediately, you can't get the value off of it. Diablo's always going to draw you a card. And so if he doesn't live, you get that value, you get another card deeper in your deck. And if he does live, you get that lore closer to the closing the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because again, the Chernobog and Magic Broom are sort of kind of an at will thing, but you're always going to get that Diablo. And like you mentioned, the value of Merlin Crab when you give it, enters and give something Challenger 3, to be able to trade with Diablo and get a card is just great value on that.
Jose, let me roll you back there. There's one more one drop in here that I want.
Yeah, our befuddled out. I literally just seen it too.
That befuddle is such a great include here. And trivia, there's actually two versions of befuddle. So it's one of the few cards there are two versions of. There was the original that didn't say chosen character or item, and then the one you have here now. So kind of cool.
Yeah, it's befuddle is great because not only is it's just straight up a chosen character. So again, you can bounce back your own things to protect them, or again, kind of clear your opponent's board state a little bit, or anything you need to get rid of that's going to be problematic. That's at a one drop for yourself. So that is nice. Right.
And with this many 1-drops, you're going to be able to befuddle and still play something on your later turn. So really, you're going to get some good value out of that.
Absolutely. That's a good, huge tempo shifter, too. Just befuddling, just being able to take a character off the board is huge, especially early game, late game. It's kind of like having a mini, like, cloud kicker, like, outside of those colors. And obviously, like, especially when you're going first, like, keeping things off the board is huge. But when you're going second, that's one of those cards that can kind of shift you back into being what we would call the beat down, or being the one who gets to quest for lore, as opposed to trying taking the board back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bouncing the Calhoun here. I mean, that's just
that's
what
huge.
you want to be. That's what you want to be hitting, because that just wrecks this deck, right? So this deck doesn't want to see steal at all. So
no, it does not want to do any sort of challenging at all or be challenged.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next Amethyst card in the 3-drop slot, we have the White Rose. When it enters play, you gain a lore. It's a 3/3 quest for 1. I mean, that's a, it's where you get there, but it's basically a miniature version of the Merlin Goat. Again, especially this deck, gaining every lore you can is so important. I mean, it just advances you that much further, keeps your opponent on a clock just every little bit, and applies pressure everywhere.
Absolutely. I think the White Rose is one of these like really underrated cards that, because it has that magical 3/3 stat line that they're always trying to hit. Not only is the gaining lore, and as soon as it comes in, make sure that you get the value immediately off of play. It's one of those few cards in this deck that actually has the capability of challenging if necessary. And also, if you're not challenging, if you're continuing that idea of being the beatdown, your opponent's probably going to have to take some unfavorable trades into it because of that 3/3 stat line.
Yeah, I agree. White Rose is really good here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in other different decks, when you have the Mim package, that's also just another bounce target to be able to replay that to get another piece of lore for 1 cheaper than you would a goat. And then we have the Tinkerbell. That one is a 1/3 evasive quest for 2. I mean, it doesn't really need to be said how difficult evasive characters can be to deal with. Again, we're gonna roll right into the Genie, which is also very similar to Merlin Goat or Merlin Rabbit. When it enters play, it's going to gain. You're going to be able to draw a card. Quest for 2. It's a 2/4 and evasive again. So kind of, I see the Tinkerbell and Genie as a back-to-back play to be evasive again. Kind of stall out to where your opponent may not have a way to deal with these evasive characters, and I mean, just gives you that much more of an edge.
You want to take a lead on this one, Braydon?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Genie. That plus the Tinkerbell, really, it is a 1-2 punch. And you drop that down, and they're trying to clean up the other small things on your board, and then they're going to have to try and find ways to get into these guys. So yeah, they're really strong. You're going to see the Tinkerbell not so much, but you're going to see that Genie all over the place. But I'm interested in the Tinkerbell. I know it was used when it was the mini, was used quite a lot in the red purple. Or what was the other one? The yellow amber, or the amber red. Yeah.
Genie, it's been interesting ever since it's come out, especially being so comparable to Rabbit, right? We've kind of bounced back and forth on like the ratios and which ones you play, and it's kind of seemed that like we've kind of figured out if that's that deck that wants to maximize it, you play some number of both. But in these aggro decks, we kind of lean more towards Genie, right? Because we're not worried about that bouncing or replaying aspect, because we don't want the game to last that long to where we're bouncing and replaying cards. We want to keep flooding the board and pushing for lore, and that's exactly kind of what Genie accomplishes. Especially because when we were talking about red purple like early in this format, when this deck when Genie came out, we were really talking about how Genie is kind of like a pseudo castle, right? Like he's difficult to deal with, and he pushes for that 2 lore, which is kind of the decision maker in playing this over Rabbit in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of decks you see, like you said, that ratio. I mean, when they first came out with Genie, it was sort of, well, dang, now we got 8 rabbits we can slam into a deck. I mean, so again, like you said, it's all about finding the right, counts on those. But It is a fantastic card. The last Amethyst card in this deck is the GOAT itself, Merlin Goat. When it enters play, gain a lore. When it leaves play, gain a lore. So, Quest for 1, it's a 4/3 body. I mean, it's trades with the big Sisu and you gain a lore. I mean, there's not a lot more you can ask for in a card that's inkable.
Yeah, this card's probably won more games than any other card. And not even being played, just showing it to your opponent in your hand, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this card.
Yeah, off the top deck, GOAT feels so good.
Yeah.
And feels so bad when you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, and inkable. I mean, this card has everything you want, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And then you also have to GOAT's one of those cards because of its like on play and on banish ability that you have to like constantly consider like one more lore on the math, right? To where if you're like, if I leave this on the board for a turn, it's essentially going to get 2 more for sure. And so he's just an absolute threat to have to deal with a card that just kind of looks like a big vanilla is actually like, 3, 4, 5 more if undealt with very quickly.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it feels really, really good when you're at 18 and you can just play that and know that no matter what they do, they're going to have to deal with it one way or the other, and that's going to get you 220.
One other thing to point out is on these bounce package cards, which the GOAT is that is a when removed effect, right? Not necessarily when banished.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's when
it leaves play, right? So
when it leaves play.
Yeah, so it gets put into your inkwell, returned to your hand, whatever it is, you're getting that ability, and that's just so strong.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's harder to deal with than an on banish trigger. Yeah, like I said, so I mean, a let it go or anything that's going to bounce back to hand doesn't even get you around it.
Right.
Yeah, fantastic card. I think we're going to go over and look at a different deck now. Steel deck.
So this is actually the list that I took to that end of format kind of set Ursula set champ list that I ended up splitting the finals with. It was very powerful. These cards are insanely good in supporting the steel color. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, this looks like a really great deck right here.
So we see you still got the Chernobog's followers, the Diablos, the Magic Brooms. Like I said, that is just Amethyst 1-drop territory all day.
Yeah. In this list, we played the 3 crabs just to get like the amber list wasn't really on crab because obviously they weren't very focused on trading. They were focused on questing and getting out. This deck is a lot more about controlling the board, and you can see in that decision kind of in my rationale from when we were talking about the 1-drops previously. When I go on in that package, I actually opted to play 3 Chernobog as opposed to 4 because I do really think the other 2 1-drops just in this format currently are offering more like guaranteed value as opposed to Chernobog.
Right. And again, Madam Mim Snake is the overstated 2-drop 3/3 quest for 1 that bounces something back. I mean, again, that's a great way to quest and protect your 1-drops and be able to replay them. Like I said, so you're not forced to just either banish one of the Chernobog's followers or Magic Broom to draw a card. You're able to bounce it back, replay that. Again, it just increases their value. I like that a lot. And then into the Madam M Fox, another bounce card, 4/3 with Rush. Again, that's always the one it comes down, you're bouncing back whatever 1 or 2 drops you have to replay this and immediately challenge something.
He's got the full bounce package here, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out exactly what that is. That's the snake, the fox, the crab, the goat, and the rabbit, right?
So all the structured guys from set 2.
Yeah, and they're all really great. I mean, to be honest, the biggest complaint I think about Amethyst is that you're seeing the same cards over and over
especially to release. Right? Yeah, releasing something so powerful in set 2 when we're literally on the cusp of set 7, and these are kind of like a staple, almost 20 cards in your deck or more. When you're opting to play purple is sometimes an issue for some people. I find like the crab 1-drops bouncing to be like kind of the most fun way to play Lorcana. So I've never really had an issue with it, but I do understand getting sick of seeing your opponent draw 16 cards with a rabbit that you can't get rid of.
I mean,
I
like you
have to
said,
agree,
they've been
though.
out since like November of last year. So
Yeah,
yeah, again, you've been seeing them over and over, like you said.
Yeah, it's been out a while, and I have to agree though. This is like one of the funnest ways to play. It's it's just ongoing. You drop a fox, bounce something else, play that. Fox is challenging, killing something. I mean, it just has all these great moving parts that really make the game interesting and make the decisions interesting. So I think that's why you see a lot of people playing Amethyst.
Yeah, and this deck combination specifically, you're seeing those cards kind of push through to get you your more powerful, like board controlling steel cards, right? Like we're using these cards to allow us to get to our early Calhouns and our Smees and kind of quest freely to push up early. We're using our bounce cards, right? This deck's known as repeat, right? So we can kind of keep dropping that peat that we want in our deck to just kind of like this is one of the decks that can really slow down Ruby Sapphire, right? So oftentimes you see them almost skipping turns when you're playing Pete, especially multiple times in a row with our Madam and Bounce package. And those like especially with all these 1-drops, they make our Strength of a Raging Fire even more powerful. Your opponent might be like, oh, you have 1 Pete on the board. This can't do anything to my untapped creature. But then suddenly you drop 2, 3 1-drops, and they're like, oh, okay, now that's dangerous. And then Rabbit and Goat are capable. Rabbit, Goat, and Genie are all capable of singing Zeus. Which all those cards, Rabbit singing Zeus feels just insanely powerful. Like he's presenting a lightning strike from a bunny. So
The only other new card, well, we see a couple of, but then we see the 5-drop Elsa. That's the one that comes in. It's a 2/5 and evasive, and when it enters, it exerts another character. Incredibly good card from Shimmering Skies, and so that one, I mean, again, you're going to be able to tap something down, and it has evasive, so you're able to get around all those things that we were just talking about in the other deck that are hard to deal with because you don't have evasive characters.
right.
It's great.
We besides 2-drop Uninkable Pinocchio, we haven't really had a good early purple card or early quote unquote because this is like turn 5 unless you're playing blue. We
And
haven't
that's
really
like,
had like
yeah,
an earlier one besides like Elsa, right? That was like the later, the 8-drop Elsa
yeah,
that's
yeah.
been like
It's early compared to that for sure.
right, like playable. Like it was actually playable. Like the only other one that like people even considered at one point was the like exert 3-drop Inkable Elsa back in like the set 1 days because it was a shift target, right? Like we haven't had something that like was really good and like just fit perfectly. Like Pinocchio was uninkable. It sometimes wasn't good into certain matchups. Elsa's like for one a body, it combos, and it just fits perfectly into the ideas of the deck. Like if I had to put an identity on Amethyst, it's 3 like identities I would say are like drawing cards, moving damage, and exerting characters. And Elsa just really, really like fits right into that slot because it has 3 good abilities. It has rush, it taps something, and
Right.
it is evasive. Like that's broken.
Yeah, I didn't even mention it has rush. Yeah, again, that is really good. And like I said, being a 5 willpower card is really great. I mean, it makes some
Huge,
really good
huge.
trades.
Especially with that crab.
Elsa Crab is that's
So this is a deck you played. I'm wondering. I always fit in Let the Storm Rage On, and I just don't see it there. I mean, there just isn't room. I know this is a deck that fires on all cylinders, but dang, that card, you just don't see yourself needing it.
It's extremely powerful. The only reason we actually play like any like what we call kill spells are Zeus is absolutely to deal with Shark, right?
Yeah.
But the only reason I really see us playing Strength of a Raging Fire is that we're 99% of the time you're gonna win going first with this deck. And then when you're going second, when you're going that typical curve of 1 2-drop or 2 2-drops and then a 3-drop, Being able to sing Strength of a Raging Fire lets you turn that going second back into going first and becoming the beatdown once again, to where you've essentially retaken the fact that you're going first, and now they're having to respond to you. And so you don't really need those beyond like the occasional challenge, which your purple cards help you accomplish with valuable trades.
So this is the exact deck list you played?
Yep.
Okay, so again, we just talked about in the last one kind of Genie versus Rabbit. So how do you settle into 2 Genie and 4 Rabbit versus 3 of each, 2, 4? Kind of what's the split there, and what's the thought process on doing that?
I think that if you're playing like a dock version or something like that, you can really go heavy on the Genie if you're trying to be aggressive. My kind of idea with this deck, I really like Rabbit as opposed to Dock because it lets you play that long game with card advantage. I've always really like Rabbit is like the best card in the game. I'll never not say that. Like it keeps you in the game in a card game that's like very resource based. And oftentimes like Genie just dies on the spot. And if you just like make sure you're protecting that Rabbit, like oftentimes I won't even play it until 6 when you know you can bounce it and get that 2 card value out of it to just stay in the game, especially with these like decks that can just go forever. You have to be able to keep up with card advantage, and Rabbit allows you to do that. Rabbit is always 2 cards. Genie is 1 most of the time.
Gotcha. So without having the Dock as a secondary draw, like you focus more on the Rabbit here, so you guarantee yourself more cards.
It's kind of more of that mid-range play style as opposed to aggressive. Like you're not gonna like go super top end, but you're not going nearly as fast as like the Dock or like the versions that'll play like Maleficent and such. You're really getting that like incremental lore with them, like forgetting to touch your Diablos and your random gains off of White Rose.
That makes sense. Like I said, I like it. But we were just talking about that, so I kind of wanted to see what your process was behind those 2.
The other thing you have here that the other deck did not is that library. And I've seen this deck without the library, and I gotta say I'm a fan of having it in here, especially with the 1-drop package. I just feel like, man, they're just made for each other.
Yeah, that A willpower is just super inconvenient to deal with. As we can see with a lot of like 3s in the game being very relevant, you can see a lot of people getting to like 6 and like having to do the math like super awkward. Library is like also like something that gets like super valuable if you can get value out of it out of the turn you play it. Especially like if you can get like that crab, like move a Diablo, like trade with the crab, draw 2 cards, like it's super powerful. Or if you can get the library down and then like move a broom and then you play a rabbit and you pop it and you draw 3 cards, like there's just like library is very abusable and very annoying to deal with.
So yeah, you can definitely maximize value off it, and just without even really trying, especially in this setup. The Diablos, I mean, again, like I said, you're just going to force to draw 2 cards. It's great. Let's see. We'll switch over to another deck list here. Like I said, I do like this one a lot, though. I think Amethyst ITL has a really great place here. Oh, this one looks familiar.
Yeah, here's our goat right here.
Yep. Very, very similar to what we just saw, except for with the green instead of the steel, I think. Yeah, so this is what I was playing. See the 1-drop package, bounce package, the 2 libraries. I mean, yeah. I think me and you switched here on the rabbits versus the genies. I tend to play very aggressively, so that's
absolutely.
That's what I want. So I want that extra lore.
That makes sense.
Go ahead. I think you can see that, and like inherently, like we're talking about how kind of the color, like our amethyst itself supports the other color that it's in, right? Loride chose that more mid-rangey approach with steel, whereas you have the more aggressive touch with emerald here. With all these like low-cost quest characters, you play far more 1-drops than I did, and I still had like 10 or so in my deck, I believe. And you've got a lot of these low, like high questers, cards that just get value off play. Like there's just like you push through with this deck, Braydon.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a lot more aggressive than the other one. I mean, again, the I see several ward and evasive characters in there, they're going to make it hard to deal with. Again, only one Elsa in this one.
Well, I wanted to try the Tinkerbell and the Elsa both because I was having trouble with the Diablos. Really, that was the biggest thorn in my side, and I wanted to see because I love the Tinkerbell, not to get into green, but I love to Tinkerbell like a snake or something like that and hit a Diablo, and then Elsa just ignored it and hit it right. So I wanted to see which one I liked both. I haven't really resolved it, but this is where I was at for the last.
I like that though because it gives you like options into the cove as well, whereas Elsa isn't always guaranteed to like be able to hit that 3 mark unless you're able to crab her. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Tinkerbell's got 2 quests too, so she doesn't feel bad.
Yeah, 2 quests, and is she evasive herself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. Another thing though is we talked about like sort of the rabbit versus the genie. How do you guys feel about the white rose versus the goat? And again, I see like Braydon, you've got 3 white roses here, 4 goats. Again, does that line sort of switch to you? I know they're not the same cost, but does that line ever switch in your mind as far as for I'm going to be able to get this down 1 faster, but it's going to be 1 less lore? I mean, how do you ever think about those 2?
I think goat is just straight better. You know what I mean? I mean the body on the rose is so nice on 3, especially if that's all you got. But I'd rather have the goat every time. But really, it's just that extra reach because this deck just wants to kind of wants to get there as fast as possible and keep pressuring the board. One of the interesting things I think is that both of us were talking about ways to deal with that Maui shark, and that thing is a freaking beast, right? So there's choices in here made specifically for dealing with that, which are more in the green range. But yeah, I mean, you give evasive to something, and I don't know. That shark is something I think we're all going to have to deal with going forward. And to kind of speak on another purple card that we're all going to have to deal with is that the new illusion, the 4/4 steel purple monstrosity and
giant cobra.
Yeah, that giant cobra. We're gonna have to come back to that probably at the end, but
yeah,
it really impacts your deck building.
Yeah, again, like I said, we see a lot of again, like we were saying, these cards, we see a lot of Amethyst cards kind of recycled but used in different ways and packaged in very similar but tweaked ways to support what they want to do with their supporting color.
Kind of bouncing off that idea with Braydon, we're dealing with the Maui shark, whereas my like choice of playing purple steel was like allowing me to have Zeus, so we have more like direct outs that are just like straight up answers. Braydon has like a lot of roundabout ways of dealing with Maui shark here, with like crab and go and crab and Pegasus and crab and genie, and just making his like evasive characters huge and being able to take invaluable trades with that shark there. Crab's just with every set, Crab seems to just get better and get more valuable because we keep seeing these like big characters that are must answers.
One thing about the crab is you see it run in 3-ups a lot of time, and really like I'm always happy to see crab, almost always, right? So it's a wonder that it's not a 4, but in these packages, and once again we're seeing the same packages repeated, which we talked about earlier. There's so much card draw that you're a lot of times seeing these crabs when you need them, right? That is the huge advantage to purple and with the card draw. You're going to see the cards you want. That Anna, I mean, I can crash a Pegasus into a Maui shark, and it's gone. So it's crisis averted at that point. And all of a sudden, it's if they know what I'm playing, I got a 1-drop Pegasus sitting out there threatening their Maui shark, and they don't want to do anything with it. So.
That's true. Yeah. All of a sudden, your Pegasus is a big threat.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We'll slide over to another deck list to check this one out.
The spice.
The classic Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, a color combination that we've seen since set 1, but it's been built, torn apart, rebuilt in several different ways. Again, we see some of the older cards in here, the Friends on the Other Side. That's one we've not seen in another package because it doesn't have the right place. But I mean, all the way from set 1, a song, inkable, 3, draw 2 cards. One of the best effects in all card games, draw 2 cards.
Right.
Yeah, it's a wonder we don't see more of this card, right? And I think that has to do with some of the green cards out there and the tempo hit of tapping your 3 drops to sing it. But yeah, it's a great card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess since we've kind of hammered in on like the cards themselves in here, we can just kind of talk about how it like really supports red, right? Like the cards that are the big hitters that we've seen we've seen Be Prepared since set 1. The Sisu have been like more included recently because you just kind of need that body to play. And then Tremaine, like these are the cards that kind of like shift that, put you back on the beat down, right? And we have to keep digging for those. And these like powerful effects, especially on cards like Tremaine and Sisu, that you can potentially bounce with the Madam Min package and replay. Like those are some dangerous effects ever since Tremaine has come out. And we've shifted Tremaine on Tremaine and then bounce with a snake and then have the 2 back. It's been nasty. Like these red cards feel so much more dangerous when they're abused with a combination of purple.
And what purple really allows you to do here is just draw enough cards to get up to that 7 for the Be Prepared. Otherwise, I mean, how long does it take to get to 7 in most decks? It seems like forever if you don't have this card draw. It's really getting you to where you want to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Staying consistent with having like cards in your hand in this game, like that. Purple is just, you're always gonna have cards in hand. Like the decks that, like if you take us like all the way back to set 1, like besides red purple, if you tried to combine red with any other deck, you were getting to the point where you were just like, top deck inking, trying to get to 7 right, and then kind of like seeing what would happen after that. But that's what kind of put purple ahead so far at the very beginning of the game, was because we had like 3 drop Maleficent that said draw a card. It was one of the few cards that replaced itself, and then the kind of forgotten but staying in red purple friends on the other side, that just kind of kept you in the game and was always having those cards.
And that Maleficent was great because you were able to drop it, draw a card the next turn, turn it to seeing friends on the other side. I mean, so essentially it amounted to 3 cards for paying 3 ink. Again, like I said, yeah, this is, again, we see the Chernobyls because Ruby has no card draw. We've talked about this before. Ruby needs card draw. Diablo, because Ruby needs card draw. Magic Broom, Ruby needs card draw. Friends on the other side. That's why we see it in this particular package, is because Ruby needs card draw. So, I mean, again, it's got all the big bodies, but it's got to be able to get in there. Like you guys were saying, Be Prepared is nice, but when you're top decking it and you're hoping to draw an inkable and you don't see it, it feels so awful.
Yeah, and this is specifically Ed's NA championship version, right? Which opted, this kind of, I think, is like when people were still dancing between like the ratios of Rabbit and Genie, like kind of earlier into the set. And then people were like, oh, we don't have to play both. Like Ed was like, I'm just playing Rabbit. We're not playing Genie. Like that's not the moves here. That's not the goal. We're trying to push through, keep up the card advantage. Like we're going to beat red blue by keeping cards in our hand and being able to slap these Tremaines down that you like have to deal with. Genie just like doesn't accomplish that same game plan, right? That's one of those like these cards are the same, right? But the decisions you make for your deck kind of like swaps them out, changes your ratios. Like in this version, we see, the 4/4/4 of all of them. The 1 drops for some, like in my version, the 4/4/3. Like each one of those numbers and those decisions are purposeful, right? Like people make these decisions like with an idea in mind.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like you said, the Rabbit being able to draw 2 cards versus the Genie being 1 on play, again, it makes more sense because you're doubling down. You have friends that you can sing with the Rabbit. Just maximize that because Ruby needs card draw. So that
and you're
just,
gonna bounce the Rabbit.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the most sense to run Rabbits over Genies again because you're just doubling down in cards.
And it's like a far less aggressive deck, right? Like it's one of those like top end not even castle anymore, like library, like game lore, like later push through with goats after I've like out resourced you with my red cards.
Yeah, I mean you still have a similar gameplay and you can still prep and drop 2 castles behind it, or libraries instead of castles now. And so, again, that's still getting you 2 lore a turn, and your opponent has to be able to answer those. And at 8 willpower, that's not easy. All right, I think we could go on and on about this deck. We'll go to another one though, because again, we've seen that one so much.
Yes, Blurple. All right, so this was an interesting point I wanted to bring up about this deck is purple is the best support color in the game, in my opinion, and has been since set 1. But this deck has been always fringe, but was finally playable this set. I think it might be a little worse going into set 7. But the interesting thing about this deck is purple is the focal point of this deck, and blue is kind of the supporting color of the deck. Whereas you only have this one actually leans a little more into blue. You actually have, was it 1, 2, 3? You have 5 blue cards in this deck, where typically like the Alice is like an interesting tech, right? Normally you have 4 blue cards and the rest of your deck is purple, and those blue cards are only in the deck to make your purple cards better, besides Hades. Hades is a shark out. But the rest of those cards, like Azurite Sea and Tipo, are to allow you to play your Genie, your Rabbit, your 4-cost cards a turn earlier, get those shifts, that Elsa down on turn 4. Like, you just get to do those things a turn before your opponent, or catch up with them if you're going second.
Yeah, some of the other cards we've seen here that aren't in the other decks, the 5-drop Bell that lets you move, I think it's 2 or 3 damage. I can never
3 damage, yeah.
3 damage. Had struggled when we were doing the original Amethyst video about that. But yeah, be able to move 3 damage is big in this. It's not a completely unique effect, but it's definitely the card you're going to see the most use that effect. And then again, we've got Finders Keepers, draw 3 off of a 5-cost action, a 1 of, which makes sense. Again, you don't want too many of those. You have card draw options elsewhere in this, but again, that's nice. It's not a song, can't be sung, but it can't be like picked off by the 2-drop Ursula. You also see the big Elsa in this, the 8-drop from chapter 1 that we were talking about earlier. But again, with it having a shift target now that's more viable to play, it makes great sense. Braydon, what do you make of this deck?
You know what? I'm not real familiar with this. So I was looking at it earlier, and it's funny because I think of purple and blue as being the same thing. I mean, they're both kind of fighting for the same space. So when they come together, I almost expect to see more card draw, right? More filtering. You know, we don't have the Grand Matalas in here. We don't have the how far I'll go, and it's not needed. We actually have some uninkable space in here. It looks like we're running like what, 12, 13 uninkables, and I think that's probably wise when your uninkables are really high cost, like the Hades, the Elsa, because they'll just start piling up in your hand. But very interesting. I mean, it's not what I would expect. I get that really the goal I would think would be to drop that Genie on turn 3, right? And then too evasive and trying to just get there and lock them down, what you're going to do with the big Elsa and the Hades. So I think it's really cool. I'd love to play it, and I'd love to see it. You got the 1 of the what is that?
The Finders Keepers.
Yeah, the Finders Keepers.
Yeah. So that card's really good because this deck having like the Elsas, those are the big drop Elsa and like Let It Goes, and these like really good removal options is like sometimes you have this board presence that other removal options don't offer, right? Where they often removal doesn't also stick a body. We have 2 characters that do that in this, so they like stay and also can compete and do things. So oftentimes we actually can take a partial turn off in this deck and draw 3 cards and like just feel good about it. And it's such a good feeling to be like, I'm gonna take this turn off just to draw 3.
Yeah, I like
I also really like the addition of Cogsworth in this deck.
Just about to bring him up.
Because I really like the idea of like one of the cooler things you can do with him is like give rush to the crab, and then crab sack himself into something, then crab effect, like because the challenger's 6 on the crab, and then he'll like get banished, and you can give that to the Cogsworth and he becomes challenger, and so he's 4, and you can kind of remove things that way. That's a really neat little combo. Yeah, Cogsworth is such an interesting card. I thought he was going to be significantly more used when he was revealed initially.
Well,
I mean,
it's
I do
just
like.
compete.
I was to say I like this deck. I mean, again, its use case for Amethyst is different, but again, there's like 4 different cards that we haven't seen kind of rotating in that same package from the other colors. So I mean, again, that's kind of speaks to kind of the uniqueness of this color combination.
Yeah, that Cogsworth is something that we've seen teched in Purple Steel sometimes as well, because on 3 you can actually drop it plus a Calhoun, and that's a big little surprise to give that Calhoun that rush on the turn that you play it and eat something for 2 lore, because people are always dancing around Calhoun and you can't really dance around it if it's got rush.
Yeah, I like that. Well, that bell moving damage, that Cogsworth with the bell in hand is really, really good. So
Bell is super dangerous in the decks where you like are able just to like move that full 3 damage. Like oftentimes you'll see like that Elsa hit in something and then you'll play Bell and then you'll move that damage and like heal your Elsa to give her even more value. And just an absolutely dangerous card. Gets around resist. That's always a huge thing to never forget. Yeah, just really, really good effect. Moving damage.
And you got the big butts on the Hades and the Elsa too, so they could just pile up the damage, right?
Yeah, and this deck's never hurting for ink either. So I mean, those big 7 and 8 drops aren't even a problem for it at all.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Right.
I'll kick us off with one.
Okay.
And this is looking into set 7, so this may not be as good as I'm thinking, but Hypnotic Strength. So I don't know if we can pull that one up. And this is just one of those cantrips, meaning when you play it, you draw a card.
Oh, okay. I like this card. I saw it text in the Jafar deck at one point.
Yeah, I think with the illusions, I think illusions actually are going to change everything to some degree. Just like 2-drop Ursula kind of changed how many songs a lot of people are playing.
Right.
You want to have something there for that. So this is good for you. It's good if your opponent has something. It's good on your characters. Draws a card. So worst case, you ink it. So I really think this could see some play.
Helps us deal with these big creatures that we're seeing a lot of, especially with blue being so prevalent. I really like these cards. I especially think that they're going to become more and more relevant as like you said, illusions become more and more relevant. Like if we don't see like a ton of these interesting tech cards now, it doesn't mean that we won't later as they become more of a problem. Like we kind of as people are kind of speculating like on the Aladdin like Cave of Wonders like card or whatever, we have the illusion for Raja and the snake or whatever, but there's also a magic carpet and a boo on there that's got an art. So that means that we'll probably be getting illusions of those, especially. Or I guarantee we'll get more illusions with Jafar being the next set, right? Like if this is his whole like lore wise, it's his kind of reign.
Well, I don't think we want to deal with any of these illusions without some way of targeting them.
Absolutely,
they're just a beast. That Iago, I mean, what is that? Force evasive. I mean,
massive.
That thing is huge. I mean, it's just going to wreck your board.
And that's all. Perfectly honest, this is one of the better ways to deal with it because it also is going to benefit you in the run by being able to draw cards. I mean, rather than just saying something like, the Ruby Vitalosphere, something that's going to be able to choose and give something rush and not benefit you at all other than getting it off the board. This kind of puts in two angles of work.
Yeah.
Right. I like that one, Brett. That was a good pull. I like this art on this card too.
Yeah, that's good.
What else you got for us?
All right. Some of these we saw. So I was like Befuddle, Friend. When I looked at these earlier, I didn't notice these. The Bell. The one you had just mentioned was the Jafar, the 7-drop. I mean, that thing is just sitting out there just waiting for a deck, I feel like, right?
I think there's almost no universe where some kind of Jafar deck with this card doesn't come back with him leading the next set. I think that we'll get like at least a few support cards with him being in this realm. Um, powerful card, right? Like gaining potentially 7 lore off of a whole new world. We've seen versions of like the purple green version that uses second star to the right and gains 5 lore. Just these massive gains off of just drawing cards, which is exactly what we've said the color does, right?
Yeah, I mean, this card rewards you for drawing cards with lore. So I mean, you really can't get any better than advancing your game state while just drawing cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's solid and it's fun. I mean, if nothing else, it's just fun to mess around with, build decks around. It's a great card.
My only hate on this card is that it's not a 5/5, so it doesn't trade with Shark. I wish that it was, but you know how it does trade with Shark with Hypnotic Strength, and then we also gain a lore.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, he's got to be exerted to get that, right? But
darn.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the next one
He's
had
cooking.
on my
He's
list,
cooking.
Yeah. The next one I had on my list was the 7-drop Ursula. Another great card.
The next one I thought
is this the set? Oh, this one, yeah.
Shift 5. When it quests, exert chosen character, and other characters can exert to sing songs.
This is that kind of exerted identity we're seeing kind of come back on these big drops. The inability to sing songs. We're kind of seeing more cards like that come out with like the new Gantu, right? Kind of a disgusting ability when Amber Steel Songs has been like a very prevalent deck since set 1. That questing for 3 is huge. Like questing for 3 and then exerting and then being able to deal with the board is a very disgusting ability. That 4/7 means that it trades well. It's not getting taken off the board as easily. It might now with Sapphire Coil, but we're not going to talk about that yet. But it also has like a ton of good shift targets, right? Like it's got the 2-drop, the 3-drop. There are some purple options that aren't like very much played, but like she has a ton of like ways to move into a deck. And every time I've teched her in, she's been really gross.
Yeah, she's a nice surprise. I mean, when you drop her on the 2-drop and just swing in for 3, like you said, exert something. Yeah, it's really good.
Going from a 1/3 to a 4/7 is nuts.
One of the best cards. I mean, that's the one we're looking at is the set championship promo version too. So I mean, it's just a beautiful card, and I mean they were one of the ones that people were really crazy about getting, and I mean, it felt good to win those.
An honorable mention, just because I want to bring him up, is let's see, Rafiki. I just want to remember old 3-drop Rush Rafiki. This.
Oh boy!
Set 1 and 2,
that one.
This guy did some freaking work, buddy. Yeah.
So
what's your his beautiful face?
What's the hope behind this one? I when we were playing Pack Rush for the other day, like this guy came down and kind of destroyed me. And then we did the movie. I've seen this guy twice recently because then we did the movie night and Corey played the Lion King deck. And I quested freely with something and then forgot about Rafiki and he dropped this on 3 and ate my guy.
Yeah, he's one that I don't think is great now, but I mean, Fox is just strictly an upgrade, but it's just a great old card. I have great memories of it. So I think I took Tanya to task with this card a couple of times. So back when she was first starting, and I was just starting too. So. Yeah.
It was a menace at the time for sure. Gosh, yeah, that's a throwback one for sure.
All right, and I'm just gonna keep going here. Sorcerer's
Run them out.
Sorcerer's Tower. This is one that I think if rooms ever get good, this location is ridiculous. And this is one that I don't know. It wouldn't be on your radar otherwise. Gain 1 lore while here, and the brooms move for free.
Oh yeah, the fact that they move for free is like disgusting. That's like one of the big drawbacks of a lot of location decks is the really, really powerful ones, right? They either like don't have like a reduced move cost or like the move cost is like too high. Making it like archetype specific is like a way to balance it, but it makes that very strong. I've definitely had my stuff pushed in by brooms a few times in my life.
Yeah. I played against it more than I've played it because we have a guy named Daniel who plays with it. And I just love this location when it hits the table and like 3 or 4 cards move over and quest for free. And it's just like, yeah, didn't see that coming. So, and then you're trying to either deal with the 7 strength or deal with the cards that are on there. And if you're dealing with that you're not dealing with the cards. So just fun design space. And at some point, I think it could be good if we get more brooms. So
as a broom enthusiast, I love this card. I love this one, and also another card I was going to bring up was Yen Sid, but Sorcerer's Tower is just. And again, this is for every character that moves there, so you can pay the 2, move Yen Sid, quest for 4. So I mean, again, it's fantastic, and I had an entire Amethyst and Steel broom deck built. I love that. Again, like you were saying, Braydon, you can drop this card and it makes such a surprise that I'm questing for like 12 instead of 6. Like, it's great. Like, I love this. And again, this is one of the few cards that right now there's no way to abuse it, but again, this makes an infinite loop. If you have 2 of these out and a broom, you can infinitely move them back and forth between the Sorcerer's Tower. So all we need is a card that says when you move something to a location, X happens, and we got it going.
Yeah.
And they're committed to helping brooms out, as we've seen. So eventually they'll give us the most broken broom.
I keep saying it. Set 5 Shimmering Skies was the worst set because it had no broom support. So no brooms, worst set immediately. Let's see if we can get Yen Sid pulled up, because that was my next card I was going to bring up, and then you brought the Sorcerer's Tower into it.
Isn't Yen Sid steel? I was thinking he was steel for some reason.
No.
He's the purple goat.
Is he? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to talk about, because the next card I had in the first card I had in the new set to talk about combos with Yen Sid. So let's do this. Yeah.
Again, so I mean, 2-drop when you play him. If you have a broom in play, you draw a card. Again, that's Amethyst card draw. And then if you have 2 or more brooms in play, this character quests for an additional 2 lore. Again, like I said, putting them in the Sorcerer's Tower, paying 2 to quest for 4. If you have the brooms out, is great. I love Yen Sid so much.
Also goated art.
That is a great art. I mean,
I didn't know there was an enchanted art on this. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, this is from. I mean, have you guys watched Fantasia recently?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
It's such a short, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice is such a short part of the movie, but like I am so excited when it gets to that part.
Yeah, it's so iconic. I love Mickey getting too big for his britches.
We need more broom support though.
What's the first card in the new set that combos that reveal the spice?
No, you got me interested now.
Well, I couldn't find much in purple that I was really all that excited about, and this is probably the card in purple that I'm most excited about, besides maybe the well, no, actually, I think this is the one. Maybe the illusions are probably all around better, but it's Cusco. What is it? Temporary.
Oh, the whale.
Yes.
Oh, the whale.
This thing. I'm telling you, they did everything to keep you from playing it. They made it uninkable. They gave it bad stats. They said once per turn. This ability is so busted. Once per turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may return chosen character, item, or location with costs 2 or less to that player's hand. Then they draw a card.
We got a little optional befuddle with a little Judy Hopps drawback or potential draw.
And you're drawing it. I really like it. I listed some cards that it could be good with, and Yen Sid was one. Let's see what else I had here. Popsicle is obviously good. Fortisphere. Fix It Felix Jr., the one that draws you a card if you have a location in play. Doc. You can get your Doc back. And Tipo. I think Tipo is probably the best use because you get Tipo and Popsicle in here. And I mean, this is just speculation. I mean, it's probably not really good, but I think it would be fun. I mean, just
You're
start,
right though. That
start
effect's
bringing back.
really crazy. They just gave it like the worst.
Yeah. I mean, but if you do have this down and you're playing it early because you're playing it purple blue, you TPO, you're going to ink, you pull the TPO back, you draw a card, and you're inking twice that turn, and you can just repeat it every turn, at least until anything blows on it and it dies. But I just think it's a fun card. I like the design space of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those
again, cards going into the inkwell plays into the sapphire coil. So I mean, again, you're going to double the value on that, which is going to be good in amethyst sapphire. And Braydon, isn't that sort of your like wheelhouse when they try to make a card unplayable? You try to find a way to make it so
Yeah,
you can play it.
I
Right
tend
up
to
your
do that.
alley.
And I like bounce. Obviously, I mean, there's just something about controlling the board, pulling things back, and moving them around. So
I don't know how many other king subtitle cards do we have? Like the characteristic king.
Probably a
Couple.
few. Like at
Maybe I've
least
never
like some
noticed. There's
Simbas or Mufasa's got to be a king, right?
princes, kings. Yeah, we got plenty of
Sanders.
those. I mean,
Oh,
there may
wow.
be something.
Yeah.
Maybe something you could do a little
Sauce.
Kendrick on there.
All right. Well, that may have been a bad one, but that
Nah, that was
Nah, we
worth
love Cusco. We love every
too
Cusco.
much
Shout out
fun.
White Breezy.
Too much fun. Yeah. And what do you guys have here for purple? Anything you're interested in?
Obviously the illusions. We can talk about like Iago and Cobra.
The Cobra. Gosh.
So obviously, this is one of these new dual ink cards. He's steel and amethyst. So we had to restrict him into this color because he's so disgusting. We got that 4/4 overstated line for a 3-drop. He's got that goat ability where when he comes into play, we can discard a nasty uninkable card that we didn't need off of our rabbit that we drew a million cards off and gain 2 lore. So we can push for our lore and just make sure that we're getting close to game, especially with the even more dominant Ruby Sapphire meta coming up. We're going to be able to keep up with that lore gain with our white roses, our goats, and our cobras. He's one of these new illusion characters, so he's got that disgusting keyword vanish. That's how we balance these guys, right? So he can get removed with an improvise the mosquito bite to fire the cannons, anything that kind of looks his direction. That's how we kind of mitigate how broken this card is.
I mean, it's still eating a card. Your opponent's taking the turn, taking the time off to either sing the song to target it or pay the ink to target it, and they're losing the card from their hand. So I really think everybody's gonna have to start trying to find some good cantrips to keep in here just for things like this. But yeah, that's impressive.
I'm gonna improvise them into next week.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at this with that 1-drop package that purple has, the 2 drops that steel has, and then you follow it all up with this on 3. Like, yeah, you're just controlling the board. It's good stuff. It's really tough.
It's like it's always been difficult for red to kind of like have cards that like straight up target, right, to just remove things. So that like this is gonna be interesting. Like all the vanish cards are gonna be like really good for like the units have always created like unfavorable trades for Ruby decks because they haven't been able to like choose things and like remove individual characters. So that's gonna be real good into those matchups.
And I mean, even if it's already hit the board, you've discarded the card, you've got the lore. You'd like to keep it around, but I mean, you're not gonna be sad if it has to go to, ice block Tremaine or something.
Yeah, we're mitigating
Medusa,
Iron Slide.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, you've already got it, and we see this a lot with Amethyst now. This kind of uninteractable like lore gain with this and gathering wisdom and the goat and white rose. So again, this kind of just pushes that further again, where you're going to be just that much further out. Like you said, a pirate's life. Who cares? I've already got 2 lore. You're going to set me back a little, but again, drop another one of these, and I'm right back at it.
Mm. Being able just to mitigate that Pirate's Life damage is going to be really disgusting because, like, there have been several times where, like, 1, 2 can be devastating. Well, I'm going to drop maybe 2 in a turn and just mitigate all that damage and push through with it. Like, there's sometimes where that Ruby Sapphire deck gets in desperation mode where they've got to, like, put you down a bunch and they can't really deal with your characters as well. And they're like, you're just going to get back up to that, but I've stalled for a turn. But I think I'll just push for game with the Cobras or like a bounce and a Cobra. Like, it's going to be gross.
And this is another one of those cards you're happy to draw into, like a Goat or a White Rose, where okay, I'm going to get the lure. Like I said, it's uninteractable. You're going to top deck this because you are drawing all those cards. All right, what else is new in Marchesa's Island that we want to see?
I don't think the Pascal's not bad. I'm not a huge fan of any of these, but I mean that's kind of where I'm at with them. Like, it's not bad. It has potential. The illusions I think are all pretty straight up good. I mean, what you get with those. But,
the Raj is not bad, right? He's a 2-drop 3/3, just like Snake. Just has that vanish keyword. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I think this card's pretty good, right? Like, it gives us a 3-drop on 2 that doesn't have like other requirements, has like only the drawback of the vanish keyword. It's just going to be like a little an early unit. We're seeing a lot more of these early 3/3s, as 3's been that magic number to hit kind of since set 2, when like Snake and Queen and like trying to like battle that red purple versus steel song like matchup there. We've seen 3 be like the magic number for a long time now, especially now that we've even a Ruby Sapphire like McDuck Manor is like super relevant. So having to hit that 9 is like, a multiple of 3. This card, I think it's really good.
Yeah, this card's really good. I mean, you can snake it, right on curve, come on in with the snake, hit it, because it won't vanish from your own effects, right? That's not targeting action anyways, but yeah, it's good. I also like that it's just Amethyst. Unlike Cobra, this can be seen in a wide variety of decks. So really gives it a lot of flexibility.
I like it. It is nice. And again, that's something else too. Like you were saying, this is one that can just come out early. Again, that Cogsworth we saw earlier would be able to play right behind this and get it down again. Like, so you may rather play the Madam M Fox to bounce it back if you're able to again, but a 3/3 body is really nice that early in the
game. Not as good as me, but that's a good call.
That is true.
Like Smee, and there's the only one card I wanted to bring up is the big Amethyst Ruby Taka, the 10-drop.
Oh yeah,
that's so nutty.
Playing with that exerted identity just a little bit more. This card's just got 12/12, 10-drop, massive.
It feels like shock factor of just all these huge numbers on one card, right? Like,
yeah,
we saw the 9/9, or was it 10/10 Gaston that came out?
Yeah.
Shimmering Skies. Like, again, it looks so weird with such giant numbers on it, but this one kind of doubles down. Going to quest for 3, 12/12, 10. Like, it's big numbers everywhere.
What do you think about this card, Braydon?
I don't think it's playable, but I think it's fun.
No.
I mean, if I ever see this in play, I'm maybe I just concede because kudos to whoever pulled that off, right? I think the artwork's awesome. I think design space is cool. It really gets into what Purple does, and that's one of their identity characteristics, which is tapping down things or exerting things, I should say.
You're not gonna be okay when I pull this off by putting this down and dropping the Ohana that exerts everything. You're gonna be real upset, right?
That's why I wanted to bring this one up.
For that, I'll just give it up.
I wanted to bring it up because I feel like this is something Braydon would try to make work somewhere.
It costs too much. Isn't
Yeah.
aggressive enough.
It's
Yeah,
it's too
exactly.
it's too red. That's the
And
problem with
it
Braden.
only quests for 3, so that's the bust.
It's
on it.
already out.
I do think it's fun. Like I said, again, it's a shift 7. I don't know how many Taka shift targets it has that would be that are that we don't have any playable Takas as it is. But again, it does lean into giving it some flexibility somewhere down the road that they can again new shift targets, and again it's going to be a while I think before this reaches competitive playability, but it does exist. Again, just for shock factor, if nothing else.
They're gonna give us a shift target that says when this card is shifted onto, exert all opposing.
Oh no!
Or your opponent's going to play that green card where each person can put a character into play. Yeah.
yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, that'll be the plan. Yeah.
Gosh.
Broken.
Anyways, if you want to save some slots in your deck for a 10-drop inkable card, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
red purple's got
to
to figure out how to adapt. This is how we do it.
Yeah, like I said, that's the one I has stuck out to me in Amethyst, one of the new dual color cards, just because it's just so silly looking now, but again, in several sets maybe it'll be a thing. All right. Any other cards everyone wants to look at? Or are we done here? That's all I had.
Yeah. Bruce, I don't think you picked a card, but maybe you did. Maybe you did the.
That was the Raja was the only one I like that card. It probably won't see play because we're seeing a lot of good 3/3s coming into the game now. But that card would have been extremely playable several sets ago.
I don't think it's bad anyway. Any way you go about it, but yeah. I don't think it takes. I wouldn't lose a snake for it or a fox.
Yeah. If it quested for 2 though, like me, it'd be slapped immediately into the aggro decks, like the Amber Amethyst. It would have made it into that list.
All right, guys. Well, if you've got nothing else, I think that is a good in-depth look at Amethyst. So, again, we'll be back. We'll be doing this again on another chapter, covering another ink color.
Emerald.
So is Emerald next?
Oh.
Okay.
Emerald is next. Yes. We'll be covering Emerald in 2 weeks from this video. The video will drop, so that'll be really exciting.
It sounds fun. We're gonna have more to talk about too with the release of Set 7 being fully out, and we're gonna have a lot of new cards to look at.
And people will have tested these cards too, so we'll see what spice people come up with their new deck lists. It'll be kind of like the first Set 7 deck list that we'll see with the Emerald. Hopefully.
If you haven't paid attention for the last hour, in summary, purple, draw cards.
Draw cards.
Right.
We learned
Very-
2 things.
25, 30. It takes like 30 card slots in your deck, but hey, it's worth it.
But you're drawing
learned
every
that-
single card.
Amethyst gives you card draw, and Ruby needs card draw. Those are the 2 things we learned, and nothing else.
Alrighty, guys. Well, once again, we thank you for joining us for our Intro to Lorcana series, the Amethyst edition. We would like to say thank you to our sponsor, House of Cards. As always, they're super great out in Winston-Salem. They're on TCG Player. They have tons of inventory, so check them out. We are also affiliate partners with Gemtech Accessories, and we offer a 10% discount, which is also below for all of your TCG needs, deck boxes, bags, sleeves, and some playmats. We are super excited that you guys have been enjoying the series so far. We've seen a lot of feedback on it. If you have anything you would like to see, make sure you comment below, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.